From the Opupco Studios in Oklahoma City, you're watching OSU football with Brandon Chatmon. I'm Jenni Carlson. Brandon, the defense that the Cowboys put out on the field Saturday against Washington State, a lot of faces that have become familiar over the years, gone. No Andre Sexton. Just across the board, you can pick out names. I could probably go on and on. A lot of new faces, but a guy that returns, Ugo Chinasa, at defensive end. Talk a little bit about him and what he could bring to the defense for this Cowboy team.
Honestly, I think in a lot of ways he might be the key to their defense. He really came on late in the season last year. I believe he had 4.5 sacks in the last 5 games, and he's a guy who was highly recruited. They expected a lot out of him. If he's able to be a terror coming off the corner and keep the Cowboys from having to blitz and put their young secondary one-on-one with receivers, I mean, that could be a huge impact emergence by Ugo.
What about this defensive line? Obviously, some guys that have played are gone. How's this defensive line coming together, and what's Chinasa's role in that whole thing?
I think the defensive line they feel pretty good about, especially the defensive ends. You have Ugo Chinasa there. You have Rashedi Jones there. If Jamie Blatnick is able to come back at some point, he also provides some veteran depth at that position. It's the defensive tackles you're worried about a little bit with Shane Jark and Chris Donaldson inside. Those two seniors you feel pretty good about, but it's behind those two guys that you're wondering a little bit how that's going to work out. So that's why it's so important for Ugo to have a good season this year, because he's a guy who showed flashes late last year, and if he's a guy who can command a double team, then that frees up some possibilities for the other 4.
This is a defensive line, historically, let's say over the last decade or so, defensive line for the Cowboys. Pressure on the quarterback has not been a staple for this team. Is this a group that can maybe get some pressure and allow, or maybe even get to the point where the linebackers can get pressure? Just somehow that this defense can get pressure on the quarterback?
I would say so. When you look at a guy like Ugo, he's already highly recruited. Rashedi Jones, highly recruited. If both of those guys start fulfilling some of that potential, then you're talking about a situation where you don't necessarily have to blitz on every play. You have one coming from one side, one coming from the other side. You can get some pressure on the quarterback without worrying about blitzing people and then putting your young secondary in situations where they're one-on-one with receivers.
All right. Thanks, Brandon. Hey, stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.